to the Payments Leaders Show, where we speak to handpicked leaders from the industry who lead with human approach first. So obviously we've all got tasks to complete, but the leaders on this show work with their people in a human way to achieve the complex and difficult tasks that they actually have. We know in this industry, it's an ecosystem, and you can't really do too much in this industry on your own, never mind how large you are. But actually within your organization, how do you get your team to build coherence, yet at the same time realize their potential, whilst at the same time realizing the organizational goals in a very human-led way? Now, one of the most accomplished people at this is Sergio Signoretti. He is the CFO and head of payments for lastminute.com. So Sergio, welcome.
Pleased to meet you. Pleased to meet you, Adrian. Thank you for inviting me in your in this audience and this interview. And a very good pronunciation, by the way. So you had excellent start with the right pronunciation.
Thank you, much appreciated. Well, welcome to the show. And first of all, we must shout out as well to our good friends and colleagues as well, Davide and Anant, who've connected us. So big shout out to them for connecting us. So thank you.
Big shout also on my side.
Yeah. Wonderful. So thanks so much indeed. I know how busy you are. I particularly know how busy you've been recently as well, and with your recent TV appearance as well. I wonder if we could start with, can you describe some of the choices that you've made in your career to date?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's interesting because when you get to 59, because I'm 59, I'm almost 59, which is amazing, you know. Looking backwards, it's interesting to see and to reflect, you know, on the most important choices. But if I have to summarize, maybe because there have been many, no. If I have to summarize, probably the most important ones. I mean, first, at the beginning of my career, I chose not to choose, which means having a more generalistic approach, you know, which is something I think important in life. So if you're not ready to choose, as you know, that life will indicate the way to go forward. No, I'm quite optimistic in this. At the beginning, I decided to have a consultancy advisory role in order to make more experience and to avoid to choose one specific direction. Then the first probably important crossway was after a few years when I decided to opt for a real accelerator growth opportunity.
Okay.
And that was an important choice, because on one side I was having the opportunity to go to Manila, in the Philippines, the golden expat, let me say, habit life. Acting as a CFO of a, let me say, multinational intimate apparel company. But I decided not to go, partially because I was going to marry, but also because on the professional standpoint that I was having an opportunity to enter into a very interesting, this would have been the most successful startup in the mobile telecommunication industry. So I have to say that has been a very interesting choice on the professional standpoint. And then probably the third crossway, the second crossway, the second important crossway was when I decided to not pursue anymore the CFO potential opportunity, but to move to line management. Okay. So I had the opportunity of having a couple of general management experience, one in gaming, in the gaming industry, and the other one in the fintech and financial services. And that's where I entered the magic of the payments world. And and now in lastminute.com, I'm trying to merge basically, because as always, life teaches you stuff. Sure. And so I think it's important to pick up and select learnings from the past and put it together, synthesize it, and that's what I'm trying to do now. Because now in this current role, I am merging the past finance experience with the past payments and financial services experience, trying to give a contribution in this role. So I define myself, let me say, modern CFO with a general management approach, or a general manager with a finance background. So it's a combination of the two. It's a combination of the two.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, really good position in that as well about how important that sort of specialization experience is, but within a very strong business context. I know as a committed leader, I suppose you're best summed up as somebody who's a trusted partner with all stakeholders. Can you tell us more about that?
I mean, this is, in my view, it is probably the most important, I would say, asset and objective, no, that I think we should have in our personal and professional life, trust, no? I think it's a bit of a mantra. It's a bit of a mantra for myself, in the sense that it's one of the most important things to achieve and to pursue. So trust is everything. Is everything, meaning that it's something that you gain with time, you gain with your behavior, you gain with, let me say, a fair approach, a transparent approach, a non-excessively aggressive approach. It is an accelerator, it is an accelerator and a facilitator in relationships on a personal standpoint, on the business standpoint, in my view. It is also, partially driven from the integrity concept. So in my view, and this is the interesting headline that you were putting in the headline of the interview, but I truly think that combining integrity and trust is one of the biggest assets that as a manager and as a person, I would say, as a person, I think every one of us should achieve and should be the North Star which orientates our behavior, because really this is an accelerator for and a facilitator for potential business negotiations. Is something that can facilitate the capability of influencing others, both in terms of, let me say, people of our organization, but also, in terms of potential complex negotiations. And of course, it doesn't come from nothing, no? It comes from results. So it comes from the capability of deliver, make things happen, and again, being trusted, which means not overpromise, but ensure that you deliver honestly and transparently, setting proper expectation and behave correctly, let me say. So this is something that, in my view, at least in my professional life, has been always something which has inspired a bit. And this is something that I try also to tell to the people belonging to the organization, which in the various companies I have managed to be a North Star, really. So a key concept and a key value to put in practice, every day.
Where's that come from, Sergio? Because this is, I couldn't agree with everything you've just said more. And where's that come from in terms of your character to be able to show up like that as yourself, but also conduct yourself in complex negotiations as well, like that?
Yeah. It's a bit hard to say. I think it's mostly driven from, let me say, how I am. So it's a natural and genuine optimism and trust in life. And trust in life, no? Trust in life. And the trust also in the concept that if there are storms, because this is another concept, no? I mean, of course, storms can come, but they will go, no? And actually having let me say, I think at least, having a natural optimism towards life is something that generates trust towards life, and therefore, helps in, this is a bit philosophical, but I think it is really and then helps in transmitting this concept to others. But for example, I mean, there are, the storm concept can be applied not only to for example, to the COVID disruption that we managed in lastminute.com. You can imagine now 1 million cancellation managed, 500 million euro refunded, in 2020. That was a huge mess for the travel industry. I mean, you can imagine, or even managing the recent events. I mean, we had an investigation in Switzerland, which we have managed quite successfully, I would say, with all the key stakeholders. But again, the linking the trust concept to these storms is because you know that they will pass. And it's interesting how also I had a couple of episodes of kidnapping in the past.
Of what?
No, it happened. I mean, for example, in the textile company that I was working for the beginning of my career. After a week of work, so I just entered. I was in the trial period. I was phoning to the former fiancée, so which would have become my wife. It was like 7:30 in the evening. I was very ready to go, and there was this guy walking in front of my door waiting for me. So I just said to my fiancée, there is somebody waiting for me. I'll call you back. And so I went towards this guy, and this guy was having a gun. Really a real gun, I guess, because I felt the cold of the iron in the back. And actually, I was thinking that this was part of the trial. That when you enter a new company, sometimes there are trials, that
there's trials. Okay.
No, and in fact, that was not appearing to be a trial. So basically, they brought us. So employees left in the plant, and they wrapped us with the elastic stripe, that you put on boxes, and so we were like mummified basically, and they basically robbed all the warehouse. I don't know how many millions of stuff and we were kidnapped for literally 3 hours. But and again, this goes back to the concept of trust and optimism. When I think back to the episode, I don't think to the fear. I think to the funny thing of one lady, I mean, the wife of one of the 3 poor kidnapped guys, who was phoning at a certain time to him, complaining because he was late and because she cooked a risotto which was going to be destroyed, and that was the best risotto ever. And for the fault of his husband, who was kidnapped with us, and of course he couldn't reveal that he was kidnapped when he received the phone call. But everybody of us was listening because she was shouting. You can imagine she was shouting at the phone. So I mean, a bit of a joke, but it's still to mention how the concept of, I think, optimism is something which I really believe, because it also helps to remember this episode, which is not necessarily a beautiful episode, but you remember the funny thing of that. That's it.
Sorry, first of all, you're the first person on this show who's got a kidnap story. I
have a couple. I have another one.
You got more?
Yeah, I got more.
You're going to save that one for later, or? But I love the lens. I think that's amazing. The fact that your memory of that, your deep memory of that, is this poor guy being screamed at because his wife's burnt the risotto, and of course it's all his fault, no doubt, because she doesn't realize he's just been kidnapped.
Amazing. No, this was beautiful. Yes. No, the other was a Guatemala stuff, because I'm a real traveler, so I like to travel.
Sure.
When I was like 25 or so, we were cruising. We were going in the jeep in the jungle, in Guatemala, and the Sandinist terrorists just stopped us, and they used our car for 4 or 5 hours, probably to carry, I don't know whether weapons or foods among the various villages that they were occupying. So it was not really dangerous, but we were stuck in the jungle without the car, with some people with the guns waiting for the car to come back. Then, we didn't know. So, the Guatemala guide was very, very scared. We were young, so we were not necessarily
sure,
not necessarily. But that's again, that's the concept of being optimist, no? Then let's see what next days and next future will reserve to us. But that's it.
And none of this put you off working in the travel industry and traveling so much? None of this put you off at all?
No. I love to travel. I love to change. I love to, to live life. So I love to go around. That's it. I do it more and more.
Wonderful. I'm not sure where we can go from here, Sergio, after that. Perhaps coming to people who work with you is how do you make it safe for people to stretch and step into their potential? Because many leaders can stretch people too much and then they just lead to overwhelm or burnout, etc. But you seem to sort of show that way for people, but yet seem to find the right balance there. How does that happen?
It's not easy. It's not easy because I am a demanding guy. So this is not easy. I demand a lot from myself. And I demand a lot to others. So I am a highly demanding person, but I think it's important to balance, as you say. So demanding with energy management, in the sense that I think we need to teach ourselves and the others to focus on what really matters.
Okay.
So, and this is one key concept, no? So reward people based on achievements, not necessarily on activities. Trying to set clear priorities as much as we can. Try to prioritize a lot, so to set the real priorities, and try to concentrate the work of our teams on what really matters again. And also try to manage conflicts, because again, conflict management is something which is very, very important. So not necessarily organizational boundaries are always clear. So we must surf waves. We must, manage conflicts, manage uncertainties. And so trying to do it in a smart way, which combines being demanding, because we need to improve every day. So we need a continuous improvement ourselves, and we ask to our people to do it, because I think it's fair. It's fair to aim to a continuous improvement. But at the same time, don't try to focus on real priorities, on what really matters, without overwhelming deadlines and activities which do not necessarily count. So, and then show commitment. So the other thing is show commitment in everything we do, a constant commitment. And try to, again, be a trusted partner also for them, to be honest, because, the transparency and fairness in the relation with the teams, I think, is a value that also in this case helps stretching the potential. So achieving even more than what would be achieved in normal context. And that has been something that, to be honest, it was the experience also in the past 2 years with Latino.com, from the COVID time to the investigation time. So teams have, overperformed. Also thanks to a deep, sense of commitment within the organization. Which was facilitated, I think, from the environment, from the soft, type of relation that we have with them.
So obviously, you bring a balance to your team in terms of being able to show them, create some psychological safety, but at the same time show them some stretch and what's possible. But who has been most influential for you in you becoming that authentic leader, so you can show up like that each day?
Yeah, there has been more than one person. There's been more. Tried to select and pick up from many of the bosses and of the people who I've met, in terms of learning, because again, every day brings new learnings. So first of all, I would say my uncle, who now passed away, who was the one who addressed me to economics, to finance, and to, let me say, the integrity concept together with my parents, because this is something that is really was born in the education that I received. Then, if I can select a couple, I would select the CFO of Vodafone that I was working for, the mobile telco startup that I was mentioning, now became Vodafone. So it's now Vodafone, which is a huge giant, who was teaching me that communication matters sometimes more than, at least equal than competence, which is something that I believe is absolutely true. I was not believing at that point in time. Now I know that communication capabilities is something that has a strength in influencing others, maybe even more sometimes than the competency deep dive. Then there was another entrepreneur who is still an entrepreneur of the bank, which I was working with when I was managing an electronic money institution in Italy, in the prepaid cards, which is probably one person that combines really well the concept of trust and integrity. And probably these three, I would say, together with one of the two founders of lastminute.com that was used to say during COVID times that disruptions helps in improving ourselves and improving the organization, which is again a very true things. So utilize let me say, seeing disruption as an opportunity of improvement. And getting organization leaner, improving processes and do things better. So I think these people have helped a lot in, also generating tips that are important to apply in our day-to-day life.
Okay. So you, so just on that front, then you sort of said that trust and integrity count more than greed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about that, because I think I've never heard anybody say that, and I'm fascinated by that because it's something I completely concur with as well.
I mean, maybe it is not necessarily true for everyone, no? But for me, I think is a real value, as I was mentioning before. So I think that if you are pushed from greed, you will potentially have some opportunities of any type of, let me say, very, very good negotiations, or, potential M&A opportunities, or, any type of business results. But I'm quite convinced that sooner or later, life balances. And so there will be a turning point at a certain point in time when could be that life will ask you the bill. This is a personal convincement, I have to say, so this is a personal thinking. But again, I believe that the combination of trust and integrity is something that pays back over the long run better than an aggressive, greedy approach in every context.
Yeah.
And I am, again, I have experienced in the many contexts that I've worked where in a similar experience, to be honest.
You know what? It's It's so true, and I think that's even more exaggerated in the payment space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the payments ecosystem is, you can't, even if you're the biggest player in the payment system, you still can't do anything without other people. And I think it's sort of quite well, there's a statement in the payments industry that you need to be careful about how you interact with people, because one day they're a customer, then tomorrow, or sorry, today's competitor could be tomorrow's customer or supplier or partner. So you need the sort of mental dexterity to be able to handle it. And that's quite different from many other industries, which can be sort of quite defensive protectionism. So actually, yeah.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And then trust again in the payment industry is, if you think, is the pre-requirement to any type of payment operation. I mean, I have to say, and this is very true what you say, because again, is quite a small world at the end, payments. No, so it's not. It's a huge industry, but I mean, we all well know each other. I have to say. And so I think again, trust and integrity is the North Star number one. I mean, consider that we at lastminute.com, we are a mid-sized bank in terms of process volume. So I mean,
really?
So yeah, we process 4 billion euro per year, 4 billion, more than 4 billion in 2023, and so that's why payments for us are really strategic, because you can imagine that facilitating conversion is the ratio between bookings finalized and paid versus the attempted one, is something that is really one of the key priorities. So innovating in alternative payment methods, in continuous improvement for our customers, in buy now, pay later solutions, which are more and more relevant for holiday packages, because the more holiday packages increase in terms of average ticket size, the more it's important to allow the customer to fraction the payment in multiple installments. So this is something that we do with our own solution and through a number of external partners. No. So, I mean, we are a payment player as well, because we, again, facilitate the payment experience, try to have a frictionless path more and more for our customers, have a multi-PSP and multi-acquirer structure, processing the 4.2 or whatever billion euro of gross travel value that we process, and also utilize a lot B2B cards, virtual payments, because it's one facilitator of the supply value chain, and which is very good in protecting cash flows, generating potential revenue sharing agreements, and protecting from potential disruptions. Because if you can imagine during COVID, if we didn't use virtual cards, we would have failed. Because of course the possibility of being protected from potential chargebacks is something which is utilizing actively, B2B chargebacks is something that is absolutely necessary, was absolutely necessary in that type of context. So payments on one side is one of the most trusted required environments. On the other side, for us in lastminute.com is really a very strategic, let me say, part of the business, because it facilitates the proper successful end of a booking, and generates a lot of revenues as well in our P&L, and protecting very well the cash flows.
Sure. So you just described an industry, though you described two industries. How do you navigate the complex and frankly multifaceted elements of both the travel industry and the payments industry? Because it is complex, as you just described.
Yeah. But this is an opportunity again. So it's an opportunity of leveraging on continuous innovation in order to facilitate the life of customers. Again, for example, offering buy now pay later solution for those who are interested in holiday packages. offering, let me say, advanced feature for example, storing their preferred payment methods, and eventually adding on their wallet potential vouchers that we can give them for refunds. So we try to innovate continuously on the B2C side. We try to innovate continuously also on the acquiring, processing, and B2C side, because this is a world that it generates a real competitive, key competitive advantage versus other peers. If you interpret payments as a differentiating factor.
Okay. Wow. I think it just shows just how the payments industry, it was always sort of many years ago, was in the sort of background. It's really come to the forefront when you talk about, you know, as a CFO and head of payments, actually how it's a point of differentiation for customer experience.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, there is a so close convergence between travel and payments in terms of potential opportunities, again, for the company and for clients, which is absolutely, you know, important to invest more and more in that. And again, we are talking about a 4 billion euro process volume. So this is something that, considering the amount and the size that we're talking about, is key to manage well.
Okay, okay. Then just sort of changing tax a little bit. How do you, and I've observed this myself, and you know, perhaps your example of being kidnapped as well is a good example of this. But how do you remain so calm under significant pressure? Because you've mentioned, you know, travel during COVID was I wasn't in that industry, but I can only imagine was like the economics of that industry at the time. But you remain sort of calm in all those situations under significant pressure, whether it's the end, you know, annual results, or delivering those to the investors, or going on the TV show to explain that. How does you're smiling already at this, Sergio? How do you maintain that?
But you know, that's the natural optimism approach, which helps in managing storms, managing pressure. But that's something that is true, Adrian. So I normally, you're not the first time you're not the first guy who tell me this. You know, it's a matter of managing stuff. So I normally tend to absorb tensions and try to also protect the teams with respect to that. Because I know that what helps is the capability of planning accurately. So, you know, the capability of knowing how much time it will take to do a certain task, a certain activity, that helps. The other thing that helps is, again, the awareness that storms can come but will pass, no? And again, I can, looking at the past 2 years of Lastminute.com, you know, we were, for example, using these, let me say, we call it all hands. So you can imagine this is a company of 1,600 employees scattered in multiple countries, from India to Poland, to France, to Spain, to Germany. So we were having monthly meetings during COVID, monthly meetings virtual, because we couldn't not exit from home, no? And we were reassuring, no, together with the CEO of the time, our employees with respect to the solidity of our financial situation, no? So the important thing is, again, transmit and pass over serenity and, let me say, optimism. Especially, that was key for us, especially in a moment where business was zero. We were having huge cash absorptions, and we were managing, as I was saying, 1 million cancellations with approximately 500 million euro funds. So it's a natural attitude, but it's also the, let me say, awareness that with this behavior you can transmit optimism and towards the future to your organization in any particular challenge.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah, this is just fascinating. I love seeing leaders with a serenity, with a calmness. Because the truth is, in my observation, I'm very privileged to be in quite a lot of leadership meetings, ELTs and board meetings, etc. The thing that most people want from their leaders is they do want direction, and they do want a calmness to get the other side. So you know, it really does shine through, and I'm not surprised. I'm not the first to mention that to you. Perhaps just looking back earlier on in your career, what do you know today that's been valuable for you that you would advise your younger self? Apart from getting kidnapped, might be one of the things about trying to avoid. But hey,
no, there are for sure the value of the network. For sure, the value of the network. So what I couldn't imagine that the value of the network was and is so important. So I think it's something that there must be a continuous methodological of our relation of the network because it's a facilitator. Whatever it happens, and whatever it takes, we must practice in that every day. I say to myself many times that this is something which I need to improve further. So I mean, this is something that I know that is important, but I didn't know before that it was probably so important. This is one thing. The second thing again is energy management. So probably, and this is something that I learned with time. So focus on what really matters. Can let me say generate unexpected energies, hidden energies that can come out suddenly and are very, very positive. So focus on what really matters. The proper energy management. Focus on what matters for yourself more, even than or for the organization more. But being capable to understand what the real priority and the real most important things are. Okay. And then there is a third thing that I think it's important for me, for the audience also, I think, to reflect about, which is the reciprocity approach. Okay. The reciprocity approach means that you need to give to receive. So there is a fair exchange of values and content that I think is again a facilitator. It is an accelerator, also in the building of trust in management, in managing the relations. So the reciprocity open approach is something that works, and more and more combined, let me say, with the networking exercise and with the energy management is, three pieces of the puzzle that put together are a real, let me say, accelerator for value creation, whatever is value creation for ourselves, for the companies that we work for everything. And this is three things that at the beginning, in the first year of the careers, I probably undervalued and didn't know that were so important.
Sure. Wonderful. Now I'm smiling because I can resonate so well with those. So Sergio, thank you very much. This is the stage where I normally sort of summarize 3 or 4 key points to try and pull from this, but I've got about 3 pages of notes here. So I'm wondering if I could just try and summarize a little bit. So thank you. First of all, there's been a common theme through today, which is about your approach. You called it natural optimism, but it's how it shows up in so many of your behaviors and situationally, what you actually bring to that. I think the next piece then about being a trusted partner and your belief that actually, do you know what, that's probably going to serve you more compared to an aggressive approach eventually in a negotiation, but obviously within the ecosystem of the payment space. Then I think the managing energy and really focusing on what actually deeply matters and reprioritizing again to make sure that the people are doing the right things. I love that what you said about every day is an opportunity to learn, and any leader you work with is an opportunity to learn. And I love some of the headlines you took there for about, in some cases, communication being even more important than competence. And also the fact that actually trusting, there's so many, there's 2 lines I absolutely adore out of this is like, the trust and integrity are more important than greed. And the other one for me is that life will ask for the bill. I love that one. I think
it's true. I think it's very true.
Yeah.
I think it's very true. So there is a balance, there is a balance. Over the long run, there is a balance. So if you behave too aggressively before, at a certain point, the bill will come. In my view, I'm pretty convinced.
Oh, I think I've experienced that, and I can relate to that on both fronts. But also trust being a prerequisite to almost any interactions in the payments industry, because the whole payments industry without trust, even when we pay as a B2B with a card, etc., there's a trust component. The merchant's going to get paid, and there's a whole complete one. I also then think the constant innovation and constant questioning on a daily basis to make the user experience better, but also payments as a point of differentiation. I just think it's an exciting time in payments, but it's only growing. But also then your calmness. Your calmness comes from a combination for me of that natural optimism combined with some exceptional planning and knowing the storm will pass, but actually taking the opportunity to learn even better and adapt within that. And I love the truth there. The value of the network is so important, as well as then, as we say, energy management. But reciprocity, the truth is, we're not going to get much done in the payments industry, in the payments ecosystem, in life generally. And actually, if we're not willing to give to receive eventually at some point, then actually there's going to be far more friction in our life, and there's going to be far more friction as we're trying to do business. So I suppose for me, what sums it, the thread has been about optimism, the thread has been about integrity, and it's also been about the value of building trust as an accelerator.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you summarized it in perfectly, Adrian, as always. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. No, I hope it has been, interesting for in terms of content for the show for your audience. And it has been a great opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Well, thank you so much. I've got the really easy job. I just summarized. You're the one who's got and again, for me, the learned experience. You've lived what you've talked about. There's nothing theoretical there. So thank you for sharing the insights, your wisdom, and I know the audience will love this, because there's so many people within our community who are really keen levels of curiosity and always want to learn from others. So thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you again. See you all. See you soon.